Hello. Thank you for stopping by lakeland.com. We put that together to show you what's going on here at Lake Leanne. We're concerned with the lake. I've lived here since the 70s, and we don't really believe that $1,000 a day will help us fix our lake. In fact, we might lose the lake association in the process. A little bit about myself. As I say, I've lived here a long time. I've seen this lake grow from very few homes on the lake to over 700. I'm a registered professional engineer. I'm retired. I was licensed by the state of Michigan, but you don't have to be that to understand the simple concepts that I have to show you this morning. First, what's the largest problem with our lake? Well, we now have 700 homes on the lake, and each one has a lawn. If you look at this little pictorial I've got up here, here's a standard layout for a lawn. Here's the house, here's the road, septic system, here's the drain field. This is always at least 50 feet or more, so that there's no way that the drain field could go into the water here at the lake. During normal times, when it rains and there's excess water, the water seeps down into the aquifer. This is your septic system and drain field, and it's 18 inches deep or more. Notice it's level there. It's always flat, and it's 18 inches. The reason for that is so it doesn't freeze in the winter, because it's got to work year-round. Well, since we started out with no properties all on the lake, and then added up to 700 lawns, fertilizer ended up in there. Now we figured at a minimum 32,000 pounds of fertilizer goes into the lake every year. That's 16 tons. What do you get? The old song, 16 tons of fertilizer can really mess up a lake. And so basically, waterfront properties should not be using fertilizer at all. Now, a few years ago, the Lake Association put out this little pamphlet, and let me show you a few, and things have changed, but a few of them have not. There are 3 things that actually are good in this pamphlet at this point in time. Just last year we found out that using fertilizer that's phosphorus free is not good, because fertilizer has nitrogen. If it doesn't have nitrogen, it's not fertilizer. So our Dr. Jennifer Jones said that you can either have a nice lawn, this is for lakefront properties, or a nice lake, one or the other. If you put fertilizer, insecticides, and herbicides on that lakefront, it will end up, I'll show you how it ends up in the water every year. And by the way, septic systems, talks about septic systems here, to pump your septic system every year. Some people think that septic systems seep into the lake. They do not. If it's failed or it was built wrong, every one of them should be working just fine, just like I showed you right here, year-round. Because, and it's because it's at least 50 feet from here in this old pamphlet that still is in play. It says pump your septic system every 2 to 3 years. That's bad. If you do not take care of your septic system, you better be pumping it once a year, or even more than that, because if you use diapers, if you use wipes, if you use feminine products and dump them down there, or vegetables or scraps from the kitchen, those can affect you. So this should be either, you've got to determine. I'll have a website, a video on that later on. But for now, you should be, this should not be on there at all, for it has nothing to do, with the lake, the quality of the lake. And this is trying to protect our lake. This only protects, this has nothing to do with our lake. And of course, clean up pet waste. So 3 of these items are still appropriate. All the rest of them, this should be revised. Bottom line. Let's go on to why and how all this fertilizer makes it in the lake. Well, they say right here, use your fertilizer once a year in the fall. That is not a good idea. Don't use fertilizer at all. As Jennifer Jones says, don't use fertilizer. She's the expert. Use lake water. Now, if you do use lake water, it's full of fertilizer, because we put 32,000 pounds in there every year or more, probably a lot more. I have no idea, minimum of 32,000. You take that fertilized water and put it up on the lawn, and you get your grass clippings and bring it over to Liberty, get it out of our watershed. You just harvested fertilizer. It's gone. But if you keep them on your property, or if you don't get them out of here, you're not doing yourself any good. So let's take a look what happens over the year. In the summer, or whenever the ground's not frozen, water flows down into the aquifer. Any excess water that the lawn does not take goes down into the aquifer. The same thing with the septic system. Here's your septic tank coming from this is all 18 inches below the surface. Here's your drain field. It continuously flows into the aquifer, not into the lake. So, as I say, this septic system has nothing to do with the lake. If it does, you've got a major problem. You should have the septic system fixed. But in the winter, they say use fertilizer once a year. In the fall, okay, you put fertilizer on that, and in the winter, this is a blow up this area right here, this part. The ground freezes. And when the ground freezes, water cannot flow through that frozen ice in the ground. So whenever there's a thaw, you get some snow and it thaws, or it rains, it cannot go through the ground like the septic system, because it's beyond, it's 18 inches or more deep. It continuously flows in the aquifer. Water coming down the hill will mix with the fertilizer that you put on in the fall, and the 32,000 pounds or more goes right in the lake. Well, it gets worse. When April rains come, which bring May flowers, here's the winter. There's the thaw cycle right here. This could be December, January, February. April, it starts melting. The barrier, the ice barrier, which keeps the water from going in, is now thawing, and more soil is available to take out the fertilizer, mix with the water, go down the hill, and end up fertilizing our lake. That happens as the soil gets saturated more, and you still have some ice. That may be 1st of May. Every year that happens, and there's where you're getting the fertilizer. Every time you see those little signs that tell you, don't be fertilizing. Just straight out, don't be fertilizing. One of the other things that's not obvious on here is this little number here, number 10, on this is fertilizer. It's potash. Our Everblue folks said that if you put burnt leaf ash, or just burn anything, if it seeps down the hill from burning leaves anywhere on a lakefront property, it causes algae, and the quote that they said was, it's like algae on, what was it? Not cocaine, crack cocaine. On crack cocaine. So, once again, don't be doing this, but don't be burning leaves anywhere on your property or on the street. Right down the street, we have had burning leaves for years. I mentioned it to our subdivision director. She doesn't understand the reason why it's so important not to burn on the lake. It's on our, on the road right here. All of that goes down into the lake, unless if you're burning in a container that you take the waste away and bring it over to good old Liberty. Any place that the leaf, the burnt leaves or burnt ash is left, it will flow right down into our lake and become a problem. I've asked what the most important thing we could do is to collect leaves. Most cities have got leaf collection days. For 30 bucks, whoever, for lakeshore people, if they'd like to have them collected, or just add $30 to their assessment per year, not $270 or $75, for $30 a year for lakefront members, you could have a very good leaf program, collection program, and get those out of here so they're not burning on our own properties or on the streets and ending up in there. That's basically the thing. I've asked for that for 20 years. Just remember, we didn't have a few things that we didn't have until the 98, I think 1998 is when we started our first weed program. And that was two guys that were on the board actually did it. And the thing is, I'm very concerned until we do this. We need to change this. We need to actually quit burning, quit fertilizing, quit insecticiding on the lakefront properties. And then, as our Dr. Jennifer Jones said, you have a nice lawn or a nice lake. We'll have a very nice lake. Not as good a lawn, but at least we'll have a nice lake. Thanks for looking and listening. Any comments or more things you'd like to learn or any questions, please just look at the bottom of the website. There's numbers there to follow, lakeleann.com. And my name's Gary Gruenberg, a retired professional engineer, licensed in the state of Michigan. But as you can see, it's not science. It's not rocket science information that you know. This baby, if we got rid of this and quit burning leaves, my own thoughts are, you have to do it whether you have bubblers or not, but it's sure a lot cheaper, and it sure will fix the lakes. Because, as she says, do not use fertilizer. And I see those signs all over the place. So let's get rid of that. Let's all learn together and make a better lake. Thanks for looking.